Good night, this is Fumi Sleepy Time Stories. Tonight's bedtime story is about to begin.
Once upon a time, there was a king renowned throughout the land for his great wisdom. There was nothing in the world he did not know, and even the most hidden secrets seemed to find their way to his ears. However, this king had one peculiar habit. Every evening after dinner, once the table had been cleared and everyone else had left, a loyal servant would bring him one last dish. This dish was always covered with a lid, and no one knew what was inside, not even the servant who carried it, for the king would never uncover it until he was completely alone. This mysterious ritual continued for a long time. One day, the servant's curiosity got the better of him. He carried the dish into his own chamber, locked the door, and carefully lifted the lid. To his astonishment, he saw a cooked white snake lying on the plate. Unable to resist, he sliced off a small piece and put it in his mouth. The moment the snake's flesh touched his tongue, he began to hear strange whispers outside the window. He rushed over and listened closely. There, to his amazement, a group of sparrows were chattering away, sharing tales of their adventures in the fields and forests. By eating the white snake, he had gained the power to understand the speech of animals. As fate would have it, on that very same day, the queen's most beautiful ring went missing. Since the servant had access to every corner of the palace, suspicion quickly fell upon him. The king summoned him in fury and declared that if he could not name the thief by morning, he himself would be deemed the culprit and executed. Though the servant insisted he was innocent, the king would not be swayed. Filled with fear and worry, the servant wandered into the courtyard, wondering how he might escape such dreadful fate. There, by the stream, a few ducks were quietly grooming their feathers and whispering among themselves. He crept closer and listened. Each duck recounted where they had been that morning and what treats they had found. One duck grumbled, "Something heavy is sitting in my belly. I was eating too quickly and swallowed a ring lying under the queen's window." At once, the servant seized the duck and carried it straight to the kitchen. "Here's a fat duck for you," he told the cook. "Please, prepare it for tonight's meal." "Gladly," the cook said, lifting the bird. "This one's eaten well. Been waiting for the oven, I'd say." As the cook opened up the duck, sure enough, there inside was the queen's missing ring. The servant easily proved his innocence. The king, ashamed of his false accusation, wished to make amends. He offered the young man any reward he desired, even the highest position in the royal court. But the servant declined. He asked only for a horse and some travel money so that he might go out and see the wide world. The king agreed, and the next morning, the young man set off on his journey. One day he came upon a pond where he saw 3 fish tangled in reeds, gasping helplessly for water. Though most people say that fish are mute, he could hear their sad sighs as they feared death was near. Moved by kindness, he dismounted and freed the fish, placing them gently back in the water. Delighted, the fish poked their heads out and called, to him, "We will not forget you. Someday we shall repay your kindness." He rode on further, and after a while, he heard something faint beneath the sand at his feet. Listening closely, he made out a tiny ant's voice complaining, "Why can't these humans keep their heavy beasts away from us? This foolish horse has crushed so many of our kin with its mighty hooves." At once, the young man led his horse off the main path and onto a smaller trail. The ant called after him, "We'll remember your kindness. Good deeds never go unrewarded." This smaller path led him into a forest where he saw 2 old ravens flinging their young from the nest. "You lazy, useless creatures," they squawked. "Out you go. We can no longer feed you. You're big enough now. Go feed yourselves." The poor fledglings lay on the ground, flapping their wings weakly. "We're helpless," they cried. "No one will help us. We can't even fly yet. We're going to starve." The kind servant jumped from his horse, drew his sword, and slew the animal. "Take this, little ones," he said. "May it keep you alive." The young ravens fluttered over gratefully. As they pecked at the meat, they cried, "We will not forget you. One day you shall be rewarded for your kindness." Now he had to travel on foot. After a long journey, he arrived at a great city. There, a crowd was chattering in the street as a man on horseback announced loudly, "The princess is seeking a husband, but any suitor must first complete a perilous task. Those who fail shall lose their lives." Many had already tried and perished, but as soon as the young man saw the princess, her beauty dazzled him. Forgetting the danger, he presented himself before the king and declared his wish to marry her. He was taken to the seashore, where a ring was thrown into the waves. The king said, "Bring that ring back from the sea, or be thrown into the water until you drown." Everyone pitied the brave young man and quietly departed, leaving him alone by the shore. He stood by the water's edge, wondering what he could possibly do. Suddenly 3 fish swam toward him. It was the very same fish he had rescued. The one in the middle held a shell in its mouth. It swam close and dropped it at his feet. He opened the shell, and there lay the golden ring. Overjoyed, he brought the ring to the king, thinking surely the promised reward would now be his. But the haughty princess, upon learning he was of low birth, looked down on him and demanded a second task. She went into the garden and scattered 10 sacks of millet across the grass. "By sunrise tomorrow," she said, "you must gather every single grain. Not one can be missing." The young man sat in the garden, despairing. He had no idea how to complete such an impossible task. So he simply waited for morning, prepared to face his doom. But when the first rays of sunlight touched the grass, he saw all 10 sacks standing full beside him. Not a single grain missing. During the night, the grateful ant had arrived with thousands of helpers, and together they had gathered every last seed. Soon the princess herself came to see if he had completed the task. Amazed to find the millet collected, she was speechless. Yet her proud heart was not moved, and she declared, "He may have completed 2 tasks, but I will not marry him unless he brings me an apple from the tree of life." The young man had no idea where the tree of life might grow, but he set off at once, determined to search until he could walk no more. He searched through 3 kingdoms but found no clue. One day, exhausted, he lay beneath a tree to sleep. Suddenly, a rustling above woke him, and a golden apple fell right into his hands. At that moment, 3 ravens flew down and perched on his knees. "We are the young ravens you saved," they said. "We grew strong, and when we heard you were seeking the apple of life, we flew across the sea to the edge of the world, where the tree of life stands. This apple is yours." Overjoyed, the young man returned to the princess and presented her with the golden fruit. This time she had nothing left to demand. They sliced the apple in 2 and ate it together. And from that moment, her heart filled with love for him. They lived happily ever after in peace and joy.
you.